Yay, hello, and welcome to the final Magnet Marketers of 2020. Mike, this has been like the fastest, slowest year there has been ever.
It's been
Yes.
crazy.
It's bittersweet, but I'm super excited to be here and festive. If you couldn't tell, it's kind of, I got a lazy ear here, but festive for the holidays because we've made it to December 1st, something we can all celebrate as we wind down 2020, but wind down in a strategic way as we talk about some things that you can do right now, as well as things you need to look forward to in 2021 to build that craveable brand. And it's not just us talking about it today. We're going to have a full lineup of powerhouse favorites of the show, favorites of yours and I's, Mike, and just wealth of information. So I'm excited for today.
Absolutely. The lineup is tremendous. The blog post is out. I mean, there's a ton to go through, a whole bunch of great resources, but just a fun way to celebrate the end of the year as we look ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So for all of those of you that are joining in, what kinds of things are you looking forward to ending out the year with? What kinds of things have been good for you in 2020? What kinds of things are you looking forward to in 2021? Or if you're not sure, just comment where you're tuning in from. That's fine too. But we want to engage you in this conversation as well. And by the way, if we've not met before, my name is Jessika Phillips with Now Marketing Group in the Relationship Marketing System. And my awesome co-host, I want to get your bio right this week, Mike. So I'm going to read it from my phone because I want to get it spot on because it is worthy of a good read. All right. But this is my awesome co-host, Mike. Mike, of how many years have you been my co-host now? 6? Almost?
I think it is. I was going to say 2014. So that. Yeah, I think so.
6 years. And now he's throwing me a curveball. The last show, okay, well, in his defense, it was the show before this with a new bio. I'm like, I already had this other one memorized and down to that, but we'll see. But this
things have changed since 2014. That's the thing, So I've got a little older. I got a little less hair since 2014, and so I figure it's time to sharpen that bio a little bit.
Yeah, some books since then. But this is my awesome co-host, Mike Gingerich. He's the president of a web development and software firm called Digital Hill Multimedia. Published author 5 times over. And he doesn't stop there. He's a triathlete, runner, biker, and leading business blogger at MikeGingerich.com. So all the things to add in there. You're a busy man. But so Mike, today's show, as mentioned, we're going to be talking about just answering one question, how to build that craveable brand in 2021. Craveable, the thing we talk about a lot here is our theme of Social Media Week Lima 2019. And that craveability factor means getting your customer not just to buy from you once, but coming back again and again. And I know you participated in a blog that we did kind of in thoughtful details of what you feel that brands should expect and what they can do today. But I wanted to hear your predictions first before we bring in our first set of guests on what you feel is going to be that key to building that craveable brand.
Yeah, I think to be craveable in 2021, I think you have to build upon the trend that started in 2020. And that was that, e-commerce exploded just because of necessity with the pandemic, COVID, that type of thing. So people got comfortable with that. And so now they have higher expectations for that. And they're even more comfortable with that online shopping experience. So you got to have deeper experiences. So by that, I think that, people are expecting perhaps chat on your website so they can talk to you immediately, that type of thing, so they can go deeper. We're going to take a look at, probably going deeper with chat or the chat bots on social media, Facebook, that type of thing, where you can go to a page and it can welcome you and it can answer some questions to drive you to the right spot faster on social media. I think that people also, they got comfortable buying more and even higher ticket items online. And what makes that then possible is for them to be able to trust that process more. The only way they can trust the process more is if they can do more online. So you got to go richer, deeper with your product commerce experience so that they can, customize that type of piece there. So no longer, is it just a t-shirt, I want small, medium, or large, and I see one shirt, but now it's, a higher ticket item. So again, we're doing stuff for customers that want to, they want to buy a boat, now they're not going to put their credit card in for the boat, but they know, maybe the showroom is closed, so they couldn't do that, but you can allow them, you can do a video walkthrough. That's a simple thing, right? So just you're taking them in like they're there and they can see that. So that's just video. Maybe it's going to be, some AR, some VR, some of those types of pieces, but allowing them to kind of, spend some time with that, just like they would. I want this color package. I want to see this color package, and it's changing for their eyes and allowing them to, save that out
of the process. Yeah,
exactly.
And be part of the process. That's what I think I love so much about what's transpired this year so far. Like, I know, of course, everybody was struggling, right? They were thinking, how can I adapt? But the brands that already had some elements in place have truly been thriving. The brands that have already had really kind of the pulse of what their customers are looking for to be part of that experience of not just purchasing, but staying in touch with them and allowing a conversation to stay open with them on if their brick and mortar store is closed and now they're shopping from them online, right? And that now they're adding in these elements that they know will help them be part of that more immersive experience, richer, deeper, as you said, more than ever before. So you're not just buying a t-shirt, you're potentially getting that t-shirt and now you're being part of the design process, right?
Maybe you're going to upload something that's going to go on and you can see it immediately.
Exactly. Something you're going to want to share out, right? And it's not just, for e-commerce, it's for any brand. If you're a service-based brand, things like video email, right? It's personalizing experiences to make our customers part of that richer, deeper experience. And chatbots kind of got a bad rap when they first started. I mean, even us chatting on here, we are like, here's the thing. It could go really well if you do it right, or it can go really wrong if you're annoying. Like the messages, I keep getting texts, spam messages and messenger spam messages from bots, chatbot. But the way that you're talking about it and the way that we're talking about it, adding into the website and that it will be pivotal to building that Craveable brand in 2021 is utilizing some of these tools where your customers are to help them do something faster or smarter, more efficient, get access to information better
24/7
than ever before. So it doesn't have to be necessarily a sales tool. It could be a resource tool, accessibility features, scheduling an appointment, finding answers to a question. Think of it as like a resource in your pocket. I'll give you one example. A client website that we just did that's been huge for them is they sell puppies, which sounds kind of funny, right? It's not a puppy mill. Don't worry, I would never get involved in anything like that. Checked him out. He's legit. But this gentleman's website that we partnered with, he has a website where, he is matching, where he's selling puppies and helping people find and see what puppies are available. And a big question that he gets a lot, and it's usually, done in Google searches is, what kind of puppies right for my family? Because a lot of times it's young families that are purchasing them. So we built a chatbot and a app for his site that helps you decide just that. Answer some questions about allergies. What age are your children? What kind of backyard do you have? What kind of availability do you have, and kind of maintenance and upkeep are you willing to do? And then this quiz, this interactive component of it, is going to tell you what kinds of breeds would be perfect match to join your family, right? So this is more of a utility that is being used. So think of ways like that. We're working on one for now on, how we can do our discovery process that typically is asking, questions and finding out more about a brand's goals and who their audience is, and then giving some suggestions that way for them on what they can do. But instead of just doing this over the phone, now they can do some of these elements, online. So think about your full buyer's journey is what I am predicting for, now and in 2021 is looking at your full buyer's journey and saying, from someone that has never heard of us before to now they know of us, they're considering doing business with us, to then they become a customer. thinking through that whole process and see where can I reduce friction? Where can I add in some elements like messenger marketing, like you were talking about, richer, deeper experiences on any of your channels that you're using, as well as 3 things that I think it'll boil down to: relatability, craveability, and findability, right? So they have to find you in order to be aware of you, right? And in the search, so looking at your SEO elements on all your channels, the relatability to matching up those experiences to who your customer is, and then the craveability of having some of these personalized, richer, deeper experiences that you mentioned, Mike, that's going to keep them coming back and sharing that experience on. So it's driving in more organic repeat referral business. I mean, it's really just thinking through how can we build better relationships at the end of the day, and use some of these tools to do so, and fine tune in our technique in the process, right?
Absolutely. So richer, deeper, I think, is that's how you become craveable. There's many different aspects, components that can be looked at for that. So Jen, here most definitely, it's been awesome here in Wichita, watching places like the Hopping Gnome Brewing Company embracing their own Facebook Live show. Workroom development, developing a swag bag deal with delivery, online artisan markets, and restaurants getting on board with curbside service. Yeah, absolutely. So great to finally see these folks not only embracing social, but adapting and filling out their presence. I mean, a crazy year that it was necessity, the mother of innovation, right? I mean, it was just basically, we got to do something. We can't do this, so now let's try it, and doing it,
Yeah, and Christine says, "Go Gnome," not to be mistaken for "Go Home." Go Gnome. Yeah, but speaking of video, I mean, stories have been huge, and video, of course, is continuing to be huge. I mean, we have some amazing guests that we're going to bring in. The first being, I like to call him the king of live video, but Mr. Ross Brand.
Mr. Universe, Ross Brand.
Mr. Universe, yes.
Hey, Jessica.
Hey, how's it going?
It's great to see you guys.
Wave with my antler here. Yeah.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you.
And our next guest bringing in to the show is an oldie but a goodie friend of ours, Mike. She was part of our very first
season of
Magnet Marketers, as well as social media week Lima, when we opened it up to more than just Lima, like inviting people in for more than just Lima. So
Nicole and I were on the big digital billboard in Lima, Ohio.
Dreams do come true. Who would thunk? Lima, Ohio. But for those of our potential viewers that may not know each of you, just a quick intro to you, Ross. Who are you, and what do you?
Who am I, and why am I here? So I am the founder of Livestream Universe. I'm a professional live streamer. I work with brands, help them go live, help them reach their customers on social media, and put together professional and yet engaging broadcasts. My background's in radio, did live radio on air for 12 years, and then found live streaming, which is like radio along with a camera. And so as you can see, the visual side is coming along. I'm in a fancy studio. No, I got a green screen, and
I was like, look at
I'm
you.
enjoying it. Yeah.
I was like, gonna come here and be like, this is how it's done. The background people. Yeah, Ross, I'm excited that you are here. And Nicole, hello. I've been trying to get you on the show this year about all year long. So I'm glad you made it.
It feels so weird being on this side of the camera because I've been watching you guys all year. So now I'm actually here with you. So thank you.
Nicole, what is your jam?
So when we first started off, Mike and Jessica, I had a company called Media in Action, and I had a video editing business for other small businesses. And since then I've made a pivot, and I'm actually doing more consulting and how do you show up as a small business owner. And my main jam is working with a group called Ambi Group. And it's a sports and entertainment law firm, but we specialize in philanthropy. So I really have spent the last, I would say, about 10 years giving back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really have. Like, really, really
Awesome.
have. We've had conversations. I'm like, okay, you're giving a lot back, girl. Like, let's get to it. But I wanted to bring both of you in because I feel like there's some, all of us are into doing marketing the best we can for our clients. And some people think, okay, well, I do a live stream show and I work, on an e-com business. That's, completely different than if I'm working with a nonprofit, right? Where I think there is, though, some synergy and some pivots that have happened this year as well as what's to come. So I'm really excited to hear both of your insights on this one question that I'm going to ask you both. And Ross, I'm going to start with you. Is what is the biggest shift in opportunities that you feel are coming for brands in 2021, and how can they adapt and get ahead?
Well, it's an opportunity, but it's obviously an opportunity forced by necessity, and that is live streaming and virtual events. Because as Jen mentioned in the comments, there are so many stories out there of businesses that reinvented themselves, that were totally about walk-in traffic and the brick and mortar experience, and didn't think that they could survive being shut down for COVID, or having to limit people or limit the percentage that come through the store at one time. And some of them have been just really creative in coming up and taking their business and saying, how can I make an interesting piece of content out of this? How can I go live regularly and show off the storefront and show off the clothes that I'm selling? Or, it could be selling anything from a car to, I mean, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. Of course, certain industries lend to visual display better than others.
Counselors have switched, things like that,
But I mean, and then you talk about live video that's not being broadcast to the world, but you're talking about education and, like you said, counselors and doctor's appointments. And I can't tell you how many people sort of like have talked to me through the years and like, what are you doing with this internet thing? I could never do that. I could just never be out there. I don't care about any of it. And now it's like, what can I get a better microphone? What camera do you recommend? I'm thinking I can set up my virtual home studio and do all my work from home from now on. Depending on what industry you're in, you may not be going back to the office even after this ends, because so many companies are seeing that productivity has actually gone up, costs are going down, and people have more day to work and enjoy life when they're not spending an hour each way sitting in traffic and getting tired and getting frustrated and, all the office politics that can drain and the meetings that go on a little too long. Of course, we've experienced that some on Zoom, but I'm finding that productivity in general is up, and there's no loss of the team experience when you need it by having things like Zoom and StreamYard and all the different tools that we have to engage face to face, and it's the closest thing to meeting in person. For our social lives and things, of course, it would be better to be in person with our friends and our family. But for business, I think a lot of businesses are seeing a different lane that they can go in that they didn't have before. And even when things come back closer to normal, they've got another marketing tool now, or another way to conduct business that they just hadn't ever considered.
And it's like forced them, I feel like, to get comfortable with that. And Jeremy's point here, he said, many dentists in our area are going live and engaging big time with social media. They're going so with organic with it, right? And they're not, focusing on fancy equipment or anything else. It's great. And I think that's the key, like that you were hitting on too, Ross, is that like using this live video now to connect, because it's the only option that many locations and brands had, because their brick and mortar was closed. So if they weren't doing before, now they've even started again. And to Jeremy's point, even not even focusing just on the fancy equipment, but just doing it, finding a way to connect when you can't be face to face, but now realizing, oh, wow, this is powerful. I should have done it before. So really kind of getting ahead of it. I see people kind of leveling up then. The more people that are coming in, others are kind of leveling up because they realize now more people are doing it. So there's more, digital kind of attention grabbers, if you will, that are craving our attention. And so it's about how you're going to embrace it for your brand.
And the tools have gotten better. They've gotten more professional and they've gotten more stable. Full disclosure, I work with StreamYard, but StreamYard is a phenomenally stable tool. Remember 2-3 years ago when we were trying to do things like this, and it'd be like, let's see if we bring a fourth person on, will we still have the bandwidth, or will it start spinning and they'll have to drop out and come back in? And now really you don't need a lot of technical expertise anymore. It's what you bring with your personality and your knowledge and how you relate to people. And, knowing which wire you plug in where is a very tiny part now of going live. If you can set up a computer, you can probably go live.
Yeah. Which is great, thankfully, because I will fully admit, like the connecting all those tools and stuff, not a fan. Nobody's got time to learn that. I'm one that just dumps out the box and tries to put it together sometimes. Right. So I think it's great. And especially like Nicole, I know you, like you mentioned, you're working with a lot of nonprofits, locations that are, they're looking for and depending on funding, right, in an economy that you're not really sure how open people are going to be. So using tools to connect, I'm sure, is huge. What have you found to be the big pivots in what brands should focus on?
So I'm laughing, and I was just listening to everything that Ross was saying, because I like to say I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. I've been doing virtual for over 20 years. And somehow in my corporate career, my last 3 years, I even negotiated working from home. So virtual has been the foundation of my business. No matter what business I've been in, I've had to be able to pick up my laptop and roll with it. And you'll see, if you go back and look at some of my prior videos in all different locations, because I just think the versatility of it, it's just a necessity. And so when COVID hit, I was virtual, and before virtual was cool. So for me, it wasn't that big of a pivot to go online. But what I'm finding right now is that we're going to make two pivots, and I'm going to throw it back to Ross in a moment. But the first pivot is it's because we're all drained. We have Zoom fatigue. We have online fatigue. So I want Ross to address a little bit of how he thinks we can keep things fun and exciting and engaging for our audiences, because that is going to be key, especially for philanthropy. Like you said, the economy is turning. People aren't giving as much. However, if we could just find a way to keep people's attention and understand that those needs are still out there and those needs have to be met. So that's what a lot of our clients are looking to us to help them do, is to grab people's attention and to overcome some of this Zoom fatigue. The second part is going to be when the economy actually does open back up, when the world opens back up, what happens? Do we go back to normal? And I hope to God we do not. I really do. I hope we find a really good balance of the two. I know everybody's going to be excited to go back outside and play, but we've got to find a way to incorporate some of these things that we've done during the pandemic, because it just makes sense. Like you said, Ross, you don't have the commute time. You're just a lot more productive.
And that's what Jeremy even says, and that's one thing I think many brands have realized that they have to get behind on how they're going to even engage their team members that they were relying on, maybe sharing brand content, because they're realizing, okay, we can do this thing remote if we have a good brand culture in place, right? Already, the team members are going to work hard. They don't have that remote trip and all of that. So I think that's going to be a really big key of how can you incorporate this, even if things do open back up, because I know for us, even personally at Now Marketing Group, we've hired more remote team members, one, And also we realized we didn't really need all that office space. So we've, condensed, and we're moving our office back downtown because we haven't been there all year. But Jeremy asked you, Nicole, like, what is your top working remotely tip that you could share?
My top tip would probably be to treat it as if you are going into the office. So go to bed on time, wake up on time, exercise early in the morning, and get dressed as if you were going into the office. I mean, I'm saying that, however, I can probably count on one hand how many times I've actually worn real clothes.
What happens up here is one thing. What happens down here is another.
Hopefully I don't drop the computer. But just treat it as normal as possible. When the COVID hit, I kind of got out of my routine, and I just one day I put I drew the line in the sand and said, you know what, we've got to treat it just like any other normal day. And I have just found that has really helped me. It's been a lot more productive. But also there are times when you're going to have to incorporate things that are happening at home. For instance, my children are studying remote right now. And when I'm working, if I'm deep in something, I try to finish that up. But if they come in and they actually want to sit down and talk, I welcome that, because what a blessing it is to be able to see them during the day. Whereas before I either had to text or FaceTime. It is so refreshing. If my dog jumps up on my lap and wants me to pet him, I do. I stop and I look him in his eyes, because when the world does open back up, I just have this funny feeling that unfortunately we might go back to our old habits. But I just want everybody to take a moment and remember those people who were with you in the trenches as we go through this, and to please continue to make time for them.
Oh, that's so good. Mike, I know you work remote too, so I know you can relate with what Nicole is saying, because you did a co-working space. So like, has that changed with anything too?
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely, even more at home, and I just kind of echo that. It's been such a rich experience to be able to interact with my children. I mean, I've got kids in college in the same house here. I've got kids in high school in the same house here, and yes, my dog comes and sits on my lap, and and so that's a rich experience. That's a part of this that I don't think is going to go away. So I like when I hear people talking about what will be that is new. It's not ever just going back. It's how we go forward, better, richer, deeper. I mean, and that's what makes that's what gives us creativity to be craveable with what we have as a business service that we offer.
Yeah, and being flexible, Ross. Like, I heard somebody's dog barking, right? But the live stream show, and you're doing this with clients, it's like now we're all more human, I feel like, and that needs to be expected, right? Like, is that what you're finding too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that Nicole said is really true is Zoom fatigue is a real thing. And so if you are in a position to be able to influence how long a meeting goes, don't make it longer than it needs to be. And you're seeing this also in that while certain types of long form content, like a show like this, belongs being 45 minutes or an hour, it's very appropriate if you did that. Also, very short form content is extremely popular. Like if you can tell a story or promote your business or whatever it is your goal is from a piece of content, video content, you can do it in 30 seconds to a minute. Do it in 30 seconds to a minute. Don't take a minute and like people are looking at that and they're going, oh, a minute and a half? Nah, I don't have a minute and a half. 30 seconds? Yeah. And you see that the influence of TikTok. I've never actually been on TikTok, but understanding what that influence is of the short video and the fun video and giving people a break from things, and now, you know, it's coming to all the platforms. I mean, Instagram's got Reels, YouTube's got Shorts. This is what
Twitter
people
Fleets.
want to
Yeah.
watch. Right. And, you know, so think about what you can tell us, how you can tell a story briefly, and let people have a little time off the screen too, you know,
and make it craveable, like you said. And I thank both of you for joining in with us today and sharing your tips. I hope you stay in the comments and put some links in the comments too, where people can find and connect with you. But that's the key. Say it in as amount of time that you can say it within, and get to the point, because be respectful of people's time. That's going to make it craveable, because if they feel like they got value out of it, or it was connecting with them, it was related to them, they're going to come back and watch more. If not, they're not. They're going to be gone. So I hope the both of you have an amazing rest of your 2020. And I hope to see you back on the show, both of you, in 2021 when we resume. We're going to be bringing in our next guest, but please drop your links in the comments. Nicole and Ross, so good to see you both.
Thanks so much for having us.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Virtual high five.
Our next guest, with a special guest with him even, is coming in. He's a friend of the show, of course. Ryan, Fanzo, and Jen.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you both doing?
We're good. We're
I was
really
so
good.
excited when Brian said you're going to be on today too. I was like, oh man, I would have had her in the lineup. He was like, oops, yeah. Meant to respond back to you. It's all those digital messages going back and forth, all the things pulling for attention. Completely get it. Things sometimes slip through the cracks. We've been talking about some of those human things too, and just what the future is going to look like, both for the end of 2020 and ramping up in 2021. I know all of us have talked about this quite a bit because we all nerd out on marketing, but I would love to hear both of your thoughts on what this is going to look like for brands and what they can prepare for.
Oh my God, look at this.
I'll let you
How much time we got? Yeah.
You know what the funny thing is? We were both kind of arguing while we were watching you before we came on about a different topic. So I think right now, when we're talking about brands in 2021, it's inclusivity, and also like putting the customer first, which it should always be, but having that general mindset and have it be about helping them, problem solving. And we all know this, not trying to sell. You don't want to come off of it as blatantly forcing that on there and trying to sell. But I think it's creating content, storytelling, sharing the story of the people behind your brand, but connection and building meaningful relationships like you talk about, Jessika, and not trying to be everywhere. One thing I've really noticed over the past couple of months during COVID is the fact that a lot of some of our fellow friends and entrepreneurs, they're like, okay, I'm not going to do Facebook anymore. They're like selling their Facebook page and Facebook group, and they're honing in on, I'm just going to do LinkedIn. I'm just going to do this. Like, people have reevaluated their lives right now, and they're just like, okay, what can we do to simplify? And they've, like, the important things of being with family have really grown more than anything. And so I think it's all about, you know, the customer, solving problems, helping them, and focusing on that, and being more empathetic to people's situations, because everyone's going at this and life in general differently. And a good piece of advice that I got a couple of weeks ago was the fact that during this time right now, people are more open-minded to try new things, right? Our routine has been shifted, like basically exploded in all of our faces. And so when before people were like, all right, I'm tunnel visioned, this is how I do things, these are the products I purchase and the services I purchase. Now they're open to trying new things, you know? And so if you're thinking of, you know, starting a service, a product, a brand, whatever, now's the time. We're all on the same playing field, you know, and it's one of those things, just go for it and try it. But I think brands really need to find ways to connect with people, especially on social media. It's not just posting to post, like, and that's been
I think I'm gonna jump in on you.
Yeah.
Oh, she's not gonna. She's got. So I have to get a word in, which is rare for me, right? But I think
You just.
I'm like, hold on a second. But I think one of the things, it's funny. Jennifer is like, yeah, we need to, focus on one thing and do one thing well. And I'm the opposite of one thing and one thing well. I think I created content like 10 channels today alone. But I think one of the things that one of the key points of that is, not only reevaluating, trying new things, but I think it's even more important to ask questions about all of the old things that we've been doing.
Amen.
Right. And that's the thing that I think we have, because the customer will never be the same. I don't care. We've said it every year. Like, it's been the year of video for the last 10 years since YouTube came out. Next year is going to be the year of video. Like, we make that prediction. But I don't think the way we consume video is ever the same. Right. Ross was talking about earlier with virtual and live. And I'll make the argument kind of counter Ross, which Ross will appreciate in the context, but I don't think Zoom fatigue is a thing. I think when we were in offices, we did meetings for meeting's sake, and we blamed meetings, right? We did Zoom for Zoom's sake because it was like, there's so many things that could be done over email that we do over Zoom. There were so many things that we did via meetings that we could do during meetings. And so I think it's really, like, right now is the time to reevaluate every single thing that your brand does across the board. Even the things that worked for the last 15 years that made you successful, I'm going to guess you probably need to relook at them and decide if there's something you want to do moving forward.
So freaking true. Like, reevaluating too, and hitting on both of you. Both are money, of course, always. Like, I love your guys' suggestions, but evaluating, like I said, I haven't been in the office really at all this year. Maybe once, and the team maybe a couple times, right, at the beginning of the year. But evaluating then even how we're communicating. Instead of just trying to set up a daily, whatever check-in, we do audio messages back and forth. And now we find that we're now doing that with our clients and saying, okay, do we really need that extra meeting? Or can we build a better relationship through doing an audio message versus, having a sit-down Zoom? Or can we do something in an email or a text, and be very respectful and open to our clients' time. And I think that goes in with talking about how we build a craveable brand. It's not just about getting new business. It's also about maintaining that relationship. And Jen, you hit on a good point on saying, really building better relationships. And you said the customer is always right. But I also want to say that your ideal customer is always right. That it's also a time for brand that you need to identify too, that you have to have some kind of your own flavor and not try to be everything to everyone, and get comfortable with the clients that, you can build a good relationship with, and not try to spread yourself too thin to where then you can't really deepen it because everybody's wanting something different, right? Like, I feel like both of you hit on great points.
I think that's where the repurpose concept, I think, is broken so much this year, right? Like, we're trying to take something, I did this in the office, now let's do it online. Well, the world's changed. How we live online, how we work online is different. It's not a one-to-one relationship, but there's definitely things to understand. And I think for me, the big prediction is, like, how do we remove the mechanics of what we do and reevaluate how to do them in this new world, right? And it's the mechanics are what are going to prevent us from being. It's why everything's a virtual event right now, when really it's a webinar, really it's a live stream, really it has nothing to do with a virtual event, but we're calling it because it's buzzworthy. It's because we're trying that repurpose thing, right? And I think even to the point of where I like where Jennifer went with the customer's always being right. I also think there's a spot where you have to realize that your current customer might be wrong. Like, the current customer that brought you to where you're at today might not be the customer you want to keep for the future. And you might have to kind of look at that inside.
So you basically we were on the same wavelength, because I love what you said, Jessika, because I was just about to say the fact that it's okay to say no to a customer that you don't want to have them. It's okay to be like, if they're taking up too much time, they're just like, okay, you guys aren't on the same wavelength. This isn't working. It's okay to cut them off. You don't have to have every customer that comes your way. It's okay to say no. And if they're draining, and you realize, wow, just this relationship, you guys want something different, and clearly our vision is not aligned, it's okay to be like, to have less customers, but more customers that'll just continue to come to you for more and more work, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, less is more in a sense. But that's where
I took Jennifer today, right? And I think that's a whole other piece of it, right? Like, also doing less allows you to do more, right? And that's where, Jennifer and I were talking about that this week as a whole. And I think probably that's part of what 2020 has taught us. I know Mike was mentioning it earlier too, like all, we're being more productive at home, but are we being more productive, or are we reevaluating what productivity actually is? Because I think we oftentimes would associate like we're more productive because we did this amount of work so we could spend this amount of time doing the things we love. Well, now if we have more opportunity to do the things we love, or we're living in this environment, I think it's reshaping how we kind of calculate that success. And I think for some people, we're going to see people like dive into the new normal, that I know that like, hey, I just want to be back on the road, right? And like, it's scary. My entire business is events and live, right? And I said it 7 months ago. I said I plan on June of 2021 being the next time I'm on stage. And I remember everyone being like, "You're crazy, Brian. There's no way it's going to take that long." I'm not going to say
it's 21.
Yeah, there you go. But like before my business comes back, it's probably February 2022, right? Like, I mean, like that's just the tough truth, right? And I think that's something too that we have to kind of look at and evaluate, manage expectations. I think figuring out how to work from home, figuring out if our job, like although we've been working from home very well recently, if all of a sudden, let's say 50% of your workforce, Jessica's perfect example, all of a sudden goes back into the office, is that person still able to be as productive as they were when 100% of us were working from home, right? Like as soon as you change a variable, some of those other variables have to change too. And I think as we're predicting the future, I love that as a futurist. I think there's a beauty in reevaluating every aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think there's many aspects that will change. Like you both said, I think just awesome. Like as a brand looks at it, then they think, okay, where can I be more deliberate with my time? Because like you said, if all my team went back in the office, I think I did realize the areas that we were maybe not being as productive. Like, again, sending audio messages instead of having a phone call so they can listen to it when they're available and can focus in on what they're working on and things like that. Whereas though there's times now that like Nicole was talking about where your kids come in and you do take time for it. So I think you're just figuring out that balance and how you can be more strategic with how you're spending time. And I also love that you hit on about speaking on stages. Andy Cresadina was part of our video predictions and a blog that we did. And he hit on the fact of, influencers like Brian and John, I would both consider you both influencers, that as they're stepping away from the stages, they may be approached by many brands though, and looking for opportunities to use their platform now to connect and kind of help accelerate their brand reach because they're partnering with somebody that already has an established personal brand. How do you feel, and I think Christina even hit on this and she's going to be coming in a minute, but how do you feel like personal brands kind of come into play as well as it relates to companies and growing online?
I think they're bigger than ever. And I think you're so good at this, Jessika. And at Agorapulse, we are too, where we're supporting when you have a company that supports not just you, but your personal brand, your side hustle. I think that's key. When your employees have their own personal brands, that's just another place where your company can be promoted, right? And people will wonder, oh my God, who is this person? What do they do? They work for your company. And so I think that support just helps your employees feel more valued. They'll be more productive, work harder for you. But along with that, it's just that cross promotion because they grow in their position with their personal growth, their brand, and then they will do live interviews and things like this. And I could be like, go Agorapulse. Yes, Agorapulse is awesome. And I have one last tip after we finish the subject or this topic because it was really good.
Yeah, I think the personal branding thing, I think I've said it since 2014 to me, personal branding has been something I've been preaching and pounding my chest on. I think we have to take a different view on it a little bit right now, where I think personal brand value has increased drastically in 2020. I think the problem with every personal brand that has led down the wrong path, which is the path is the same thing every boss has said. Like, what if I invest in that person's personal brand and they leave my company?
Yep.
Right. We have like the tagline or whoever quoted, someone randomly quoted it and we all stole it, where it's like, well, what if you don't invest in them and they stay in your company? But I will argue that the ownership is on the individual to connect your personal brand to the business that is paying your bills, that the business that you are working with. It's using ads, using simple things like influencers, using hashtag partner, right? Like the things that before where like a brand would say, I want you to tell people that you're a partner, and people are like, I don't want my audience to know that this is an ad. Well, we now have to flip that the other way. We as an influencer were like, I want everyone to know I'm getting paid for this so that others will know that. And it's up to us to link the two, because what scares me is a year from now, personal brands being something that have really alienated all these big companies because people forgot that they have to make that. It's on us. It's on us to connect what we do with a brand to make sense to the audience. Because if someone says
the Verizon guy, he flips and goes to script and goes to sprint.
Right, and I think that's part of the beauty too of where we're at. Like your personal brand, if you do it well, can go anywhere you want. But if you do it wrong and it takes away from the brand that's paying your bills, the ones you're working with, you will never have someone invest that. And then people are like, well, then you're an entrepreneur. And I think that's why we have a lot of entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs were like, I want to do personal brand. I alienated my company. I'm now trying to build something without a product or service, and I can't find success. And I think COVID has kind of forced us into that even a little bit more. And I'm scared for people that, because for me, that's where, I'm sitting that at this moment with the work that I do, and it can be a big disconnect. And I think, as much as I love personal brands and I love people telling their stories and putting it out there, I think there should be more courses on teaching people how to connect their personal brand back to the people that are paying their paycheck, because that's where I think people are missing.
I think that's true. I think that's really big and huge, because I think some people may take advantage of that, and it's the fact of them supporting you. I think that's really important. So
who doesn't want your company? Like, look how many bios say ex-Apple employee, previous Google employee. Duncan Wardell, it says worked at Disney, right? If you can invest in someone so much so that when they leave you, they put that in your bio, you've won. They're going to market for you. They're going to, hire for you.
Carries on.
You do that amazingly, right? Like I've never met anyone that's worked with Jessika as a client or as an employee that hasn't talked favorably about you afterwards, right? And that's because of what you invest on the inside. And I think there's going to be a lot of that disconnect moving forward. And I know Jennifer had one other thing that you wanted to.
Well, one other different thing. So I earlier today, which I love this, and this was a great message, is the fact that we all talk about consistency. So this is a little different. And you have to be consistent, right? Do a live show consistently every single day, or produce content. But it's not about consistently producing new content. It's being consistent with your message, right? That's how you're going to make a difference. That's how people are going to get to know you and what your brand stands for. So it's important to produce new content, but also tie in your same message and story with everything that you do. And so that was Dr. Saba Quidwai, was who I talked to earlier today, she brought that point up, and I was like, oh my God, light bulb moment. So I thought I would share it here, because I was just like, that was brilliant.
So good. Can you put that quote in the comments too? Because that is really good. I'm going to go look up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my God, I could talk to you guys forever. 15 minutes goes too fast here. Like, such good tips. And Brian and Jen, bonus guests. Yeah.
Thank you.
Next time I'll reach out to Jen first and be like, Jen, Loop and Brian. I'm just kidding. You guys are amazing. Thanks so much for being part of our last 2020 Magnet Marketers. Please link or put a comment in the feed here on where people can connect with you more. And I look forward to talking with you guys soon. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Keeping in with our guest. Yay! Craveable shirt.
All right, look at those.
Yes.
On brand.
On
Freaking
brand. I love that. All right. A screenshot of this.
High five.
Yes.
High five.
Wait.
Other way.
My hand. Where did I go?
Magic.
I can't turn this. Oh, yeah, there we go.
There we go. Yay. Love it. Well, Christine and Troy, thank you so much for joining in. It would not be a party without both of you. So I'm sure I've seen you guys listening in and making some comments. Awesome. So kind of what are your thoughts kind of continuing on this conversation, and also for anyone that does not already know who you are, which I think they do, but let them know who you are and just kind of your thoughts on pivoting for brands in 2021. And Christine, I'll start with you.
Sure, because I mean, you set me up so well by like talking about the personal branding a minute ago with Brian and Jen. Love it. So I'm Christine Gritmon, and I do two things really. I work with small businesses to teach them how to do their own social media better, and I also work with people on personal brand coaching, which, as was just said, is kind of more important now than ever. I feel like the gulf between people and brands who do grasp that and grasp that we have to stand out as humans and really have that human touch, but also stand out. And the people who don't get it and think that it's business as usual, that gulf is just going to grow and people are just going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, that is so true. And I'd love, Nicole said, okay, Christine and Troy are just showing off now. You guys got the Craveable shirts because you were both speaking at Social Media Week Lima 2019, where we were focusing on building a Craveable brand. So it's like perfect prep up. And she's like, oh, I'm just going to leave this right here. Little bobblehead. I freaking love it.
Mine's across the room. I can't get to it.
But Troy, I know you are all about this too. You also participated in the relationship marketing masterclass, just dropping knowledge bombs, but also introduce yourself, and same question to you.
Sure. So I'm Troy Sandidge. I'm a marketing strategist. Basically, I help you know how to articulate your brand online for SMBs, national brands, the whole shebang. But also, I'm the chief strategy officer for Volt Lab, which we help companies who want to do social good. I'm seeing the trend is being more real. Obviously, I shared this acronym before: being relatable, being empathetic, being agile, and being a leader. That's what we demand. That's what we need. But also what I've seen is the greater shift. Sure, there's about fleets, and sure, stories is taking over the world. But let's learn what's beyond that. The psychology is that people want to have micro content. Not only that, for every second of attention, we need to give our consumers the need to feel and need value. That's really the point of what we're trying to do right now. And I think that's refreshing. Honestly, the fact that brands now being more transparent than ever, we're being more diverse than ever, we're getting so real, so deeper in conversations. I've shared before, I'm so thankful for this community, the Now Marketing Group community, and how me as a Black person that I can articulate and share things in such a way. It's so refreshing to have these conversations on the brand level. This is amazing. I think that's where the trend is going for 2021.
I love that. And you're always on my radar. I love bringing in because you just both of you guys just dropping truth bombs left and right with just what it's going to take. And I love that real analogy, or acronym. I'm all about acronyms too, but I really think that's what it's going to take. And both of you, I've noticed, and why I want to bring you both on together is that both of you have taken that stance of being real online. And how do you think, because there's been many situations, of course, this year that brands have had to kind of take this open communication and create their own flavor, if you will, with their content. Like, how do you feel that will translate into 2021 and beyond?
Well, I feel like now that all of our connection with humans is online, basically, we're developing those relationships with brands and thus with the brand marketers, really. And so it almost holds them to a higher standard in terms of we need to feel like they're being real with us. We need to feel like we can trust them. We need to feel like they're aligned with our values. I think that to Troy's point about how we're into those little pieces of micro content, what are some defining factors of micro content? It's very immediate. It's usually pretty quick, and it's usually way less polished and produced. And it almost always features a human. So I think that really gets back to the point of like, we need to be having relationships with people. We need to feel like the brands almost are people in a way. Getting to see the people behind the brands is really great. I think that, and again, like if you can't do that, if you can't hang with the humans, it's really just not going to go as well for you as a brand in 2021. Your content is going to get ignored because it doesn't feel like a conversation.
I love that. Hanging with the humans.
Hanging with the humans.
Hashtag hanging with the humans. Right. Sounds like an amazing new summit, y'all, for 2021.
I Troy and I need a live stream show together called Hanging with the Humans.
That's what you need. Yes. Ideas are happening. Action being taken. Building some things in 2021. And Mike, I know you've been getting more into stories too. And you were also part of the relationship marketing masterclass that we did. All of us on here actually were. Yay.
This whole group. Yep.
All about the relationship marketing. What were some of your biggest takeaways, like from Troy's session, or things that you feel that will be pivotal in 2021 as it relates to building that, like Troy was saying, that micro content?
Yeah. No, I mean, Troy is a master at those acronyms for sure, man. So hopefully he's going to be dropping some of those in the comments here so we can give the audience some of those pieces. But I think that, the micro content, that's what we're seeing, right? Just look at the continued growth of TikTok, for instance, and that's micro content. And so I think that's just right on. And it just causes every person behind a brand, with a brand, to kind of stop and evaluate that new normal. I'll jump back to what Brian Fanzo said a little bit, and that's call it the decade of video, right? But every year it's different, so TikTok is fundamentally different video. Reels is fundamentally different video than anything that was done a year ago, 2 years ago. So that micro content is just important stuff to look into.
And like Troy, you said too, on making them feel something, right? And so brands don't always have to think about, okay, I always have to be pitching on this or just create that content another way, but showing up to make them feel something. I think that's where TikTok has really exploded, where it's a mixture of fun, showing off the human side, hashtag hanging with the humans, which everybody's in the comments. Take it off, right? But, getting in there and making connections, but doesn't have to feel like doing business, right?
Right. I think people, whether your story's out, I admit I was a little stories out. Fleets came on and I got really excited, like, ooh, I can finally be an Instagram influencer on Twitter. That's my jam. Literally what I said. But through all that, I think, like we've been saying, it's really the psychology of knowing where things are going now and not being opposed to take a step back and reflect and reevaluate. Sure, 2008 YouTube was the boom. 2012 Instagram was the boom. TikTok is where it's at, whether you believe it or not. It's not just about the platform, it's the style, it's the way people are communicating now. We're trying to get it through you, whether or not you're like, I can't do TikTok. People said the same thing about Facebook when it came out. People said the same thing about Instagram in 2012 when it came out. I don't know, that's just for teens. You would not exist as a brand if you didn't at least have an Instagram profile with your username, with a link and some content out there. It's the same thing. We're seeing a pattern, but the transition now is, again, we're being more human, and you have to embrace that. You have to love that. We're going behind these. No longer, we're looking at a situation now where people who have little to no followers can share something very humane and tackle with the big boys, with the big brands. The name of your brand doesn't matter as much as what you articulate now. What you're doing now is what matters, not what you've done for the past 10 years, what you control for the past 30 years right now. And now we're so conditioned to care more. Our customers are smarter. They can take these phones and look you up and find any bad PR on you at any wait in time. So to really be human is to be imperfect, but be perfectly imperfect.
I love that. Yeah. And Judi says, love the micro content on TikTok and blown away by how smart brands are you're leaning into the platform, like Ocean Spray, right? Some of them have even seen that they're not the only one telling the brand story, right? Like their customers are for them, right? Like that's what I think is also going to be huge, is that user generated content, because or even team member content that is being created that aren't necessarily that social media manager, but that micro content, embracing everyone, kind of creating it and making sure though that brand, like you are all about, Christine, too, is solid and defined and has this tone where people know how to kind of rally around and tell that story of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's about having a relationship with the brand. That's where that user-generated content comes in. You're not going to make content about a brand and tag them and put it forth to your followers unless you feel like that brand is kind of a reflection of you. right? I mean, you're using your influence. You are using your audience's attention to promote something else. So you better be damn sure that like that is kind of on message for you and yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, oh my gosh. These 15-minute time slots are like flying by.
Oh my God, has it been 15 minutes already?
Has it been 15 minutes already?
Wow.
Right? Like, I want both of you, if you could, put your link in the comments so people can connect and follow up with you and learn more from you. Also, of course, we do a recap with this and sharing the video in the blog post that both of you guys have participated in. But thank you so much for joining in with us today. I hope you have a good rest of your 2020. And and we'll have you back on
having me.
All right. Wow. Bye. Oh, and Natalie was here and then she left. So that's all right.
I'll hang out.
All right. Yeah, you can hang out.
There we go.
Hang out. Sorry, Troy.
Yes.
But yeah. And Judi, just if you're still watching, I sent you the link as you asked. But yeah, I think this year, by the way, your bobblehead, like that video. So when we're talking about creating like micro content and video,
we should explain for those who don't know what happened.
Okay, why don't you share that piece of content or just share the story around it, because this is two individual personal brands creating a show together. So I think community also collaborating together is part of that, creating content, and they made it fun. They're highlighting other people, and that show has just kind of grown. And I found myself watching the whole freaking show, like dying. So maybe share a little bit of that story.
Yes. So our friends Chad Ia Peterson and Daniel Glickman have collaborated on a show called Subpellucid. And the thing about Subpellucid is they know how many people have live shows and how many people in their world have live shows, their mutual acquaintances. So they decided to just make it weird. They're like, let's just make it weird. They ask weird questions. They have weird overlays. It's just weird, right? So I decided, and they always kind of joke like about how they're going to kind of torture their guests. And so I decided to pull one over on them. I showed up nice and early, 15 minutes early, with my good camera, my good lighting, my full makeup. I was like this, only not wearing a Craveable shirt. And so they thought, I'm just going to do a normal interview. But I had another camera input set up that was trained on this little lady. And so as soon as we actually went live, I just really quickly switched my input before they could do anything about it, before they even noticed. And I did the entire show. And I was moving her around. I was a very good.
Oh my gosh. It looked like you practiced. It was great.
Did some twerking. It was my finest hour of live streaming.
But what I loved about that, and hey Judi, what I loved about that is that brands don't necessarily have to be on camera. They can tell stories and have fun using other things. Judy's got hers. She's like, I'm going to find mine too. So, These bobbleheads were speaker gifts, by the way, if you don't know the story.
Hers needs fox ears.
What's that?
Hers needs fox ears.
Oh yeah, I know.
Gotta get a little accessory kit.
No, we need the accessories.
I can have a craft night, a TikTok live stream. I'm crafting ears for my bobblehead.
There you go.
As one does in 2020.
Yeah, and Judi, you are a queen of doing both professional LinkedIn, rocking out and helping brands do that. Oh, I love the ears. See, mine. I've realized how much I really do bobble my head because these things jingle. It's like a good training for my bobblehead. Literally, my self bobblehead, not the fake one. But anyway, but Judi, you are a queen of, doing, professional LinkedIn, but then also really mastering kind of TikTok. As my kids, they think you're a celebrity when you came and did TikTok at my house with them. But what do you feel is the kind of that balance too for brands that are kind of worried of, hey, am I going to still look professional if I'm doing this? Like, how do I keep it on brand? Like, is there that balance?
I love what we shared already about user-generated content or employee or customer or all of that. I really think I've seen so many brands handle that really well on TikTok, and then some just crash and burn. I don't even want to tell you about them, but they're pretty big names. But that is a crowd on TikTok. When they move together. So I've seen so many examples of that platform moving. So the ocean spray is the perfect example. where the person was, I don't know all the names, but it started with one viral video of a guy. He is living his best life. He is skateboarding and he is drinking ocean spray and he is living his best life. And we're there for that.
Yeah.
So if you can show your brand happening, like living your best life is literally part of your brand. I know that sounds funny, but enjoying and taking advantage of whatever, you can make every brand living your best life.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like you're right on TikTok. I mean, you get called out there. You know, you think any of the other social channels are bad, like Twitch and TikTok, they don't mess around. Like I found, and even YouTube too, but like even more so on those channels because it's harder to block. But I think that's why it's so important, kind of going back to what you were saying, Christine, too, knowing who your brand is, having that story worth telling. And one thing I like to say is if your culture isn't right, your brand story isn't right, your marketing's never going to be right. So you got to get that right first, like starting from the inside out. And like Brian was saying, kind of reevaluating what you can let go of, what you need to focus on. I think everybody's kind of hit on this, but I think that's the key point. And then showing up, like you're saying, creating micro content, showing it in action and doing your best life, but not really trying to sell. It wasn't like somebody pitching ocean spray.
Yeah.
My favorite part was the CEO then got on the skateboard. Like that was my favorite because that's the final piece of the brand wrapping their arms around it and pivoting and saying, okay, we have this amazing marketing department. We have all these amazing pieces and we understand behind the scenes, there's a team that is working at Ocean Spray. And I feel like there was no taking away from all the amazing work that they do. But this man just took their brand and as a consumer, he skyrocketed it. And I feel like that was handled so well by Ocean Spray. I mean, part of me was like, that CEO needed to have also, by the way, posted that video on LinkedIn. And that would have been an incredible brand story for the CEO to share, but he didn't do it. And if he listens to this live stream, he needs to do that.
Somebody's like, who is he?
Connect the business to TikTok can also be a story that you can share for why it matters, and you can find a way to share that on LinkedIn. And I think that's
I love that they also showed their human side and they reached out to the man himself and they gave him a truck because the reason he was riding a skateboard is because his car kept breaking down. It broke down that day, so he was skateboarding to work, and they gave him a truck and like a huge amount of ocean spray. I wonder if Fleetwood Mac did anything for him because sales of their recordings skyrocketed. I know that Stevie Nicks did a video. I think another member of Fleetwood Mac did a video too. They got to give him something.
You got to give Ocean Spray credit. You got to give Ocean Spray credit just because they adapted quick, you know, and they joined in. You know, they just joined in. I kind of read about that, and they're like, there's no way in creation they would have thought of that from their team to think of something like that. You know, that it just wouldn't have. But there it was, and they were fluid enough to see, hey, this guy's awesome, and let's support him, and let's just jump in. And they did, and they found a way that. You know, again, we've talked about it earlier in the show. You know, it wasn't salesy, wasn't overhanded, but I mean, it was uplifting. I mean, you know, you're helping him out.
And like
so
they were listening, like Mike, you just said, like, and they took action on it. It wasn't going through these channels and these hierarchy of channels to get approval, and then how are we going to script it, and then go back and you know. And
you couldn't have scripted that because what was special about his video?
Yeah, it's like Troy wants to buy your ears.
Thank you. Because they're not even mine. I mean, I'd have to. I think I bought them off of Etsy or something.
But because you know, people see you having fun with it, other people want to buy it. Like what you're saying, Christine, like the sales skyrocketed for Ocean Spray for the song. You know, maybe the skateboard. I don't know, but like people were.
Oh, that's true. An Ocean Spray branded skateboard.
Ooh, ride the wave.
But I really think what the other thing is, and maybe I'm, you know, picturing what could have happened in a conference room or over a Zoom call for Ocean Spray, but you don't obviously ever really control your customers. If they buy your product, that I think brands get nervous by potentially connecting themselves with it with one of their customers that they haven't sat down and created a contract and done all these things to be an influencer. And I think it's changing the influencer market to make that feel like brands are less scared to make that connection and turn around and give him a truck and not necessarily think, oh my gosh, we just connected our brands to this person. Does that make sense? Where it feels like the world has changed with that influencer market feel.
Because the customers are the influencers regardless anyway. And what's cool is now they're recognizing that we didn't have to endorse them. This person made some content that took off, right? Like, to Mike's point of just listing and then rallying behind it. And what you're saying, not making it so contract kind of, securing it. And then I honestly feel like it loses some of its authenticity at that point. When you go down that route sometimes, I
feel like the original influencers have kind of turned a corner where originally the reason influencer marketing worked so well is because we're like, oh, we don't trust brands, but we trust people. And so we trusted those people. But now we realize that those people are kind of sometimes, if they don't have a strong brand behind them or if they're doing things that aren't genuinely aligned with who they are as people, we kind of mistrust influencers now who feel too corporate, too sterile, too clearly sponsored.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Amen to that. And yeah, I think that's just spot on. And Judi, I would love to hear from you too, on what you think though for brands other than, the influencer piece that we hit on, but for LinkedIn especially, like how has that changed as people have shifted and have you seen any big changes there and what brands should expect in 2021?
I think that, again, we have a lot of opinions when we see it, and we're living the world of, oh my gosh, they started fleets on Twitter and they started LinkedIn stories. But I think it is the Wild West a little bit where you could be, your experience that you experience as the brand is different than your consumer. So if you are the brand, stop, just position and turn back around and realize that those stories at the top are empty for a lot of their consumers. You will be the only circle at the top out of 10 for them to pick from versus the never-ending scroll I could probably come across on Instagram, or I don't even know. I could follow like 10 people on Instagram and everyone on all 10 people are making Instagram stories. Whereas when you're on LinkedIn, people are still hesitating on it. People are still sleeping on it. And the biggest thing that I learned about LinkedIn stories that if I can get you to hear one thing about LinkedIn, that cannot be automated. The response and the reply is real. So if you're really talking back and forth with somebody, that is not spam. That's not automated yet. At least not, I don't think so, anybody, unless there's somebody out there who's figured out how to automate replies to LinkedIn stories. But that to me cuts through and creates real conversations that have really turned into business fast for people, for myself, for other people who have leaned into it. Just 2021, be willing to go into what do we call it? Is it Blue Ocean or Red? There's a book. I can't remember the name of it. All of a sudden, I can't remember if it's the blue space or the red space. Or my brain is like, but do you know what I'm talking about? Where you're in the
I know the Matrix, the red pill, the blue pill. I don't know about the oceans, the red ocean, the blue.
There's
ocean.
a book. Oh my gosh, I read it.
I'm here for it. Books. Yeah,
Blue Ocean Strategy. Yes, it's called Blue Ocean Strategy. Where you're out there in the middle of the blue ocean, and you are kind of the unique voice. You're the only circle at the top of a LinkedIn story. So,
and I think that's big. I've been paying attention to it too, because I think brands that are there for business go for business, right? Now, granted, if we can just reduce the, and I think that's on every channel, right? There's going to be people that stand out and get, are annoying with automating their sales process and sending in those direct messages, right? Whether it be LinkedIn after a connection, whether it be, Instagram and in the inbox and this new kind of, we want you to be an influencer for us kind of new bot thing that's going on, or Twitter, DMs. I think that's going to happen, but I think you're going to stand out for the bad just as much, if not more for the good, because people just don't want to tolerate it anymore. They want to find genuine connections, and they're onto people's games and they're not about it. So,
and really, your experience that spam, you will then be different. You'll be this refreshing authenticity. And when I see those, especially I saw something go viral on TikTok this morning where it was a YouTube channel. It's a man that has been playing his guitar for years. He's got tons of videos on YouTube's. Oh my God, what do I sound like? He's got tons of videos and he wasn't getting very many views. And there was a guy on TikTok that saw the channel and just said, wow, he's really good. I like it. Let's all go over and support his videos on YouTube. He got an influx, like 900 plus comments on one YouTube video. And he was like, what just happened?
Whoa.
Like, and he's replying to all of them. And what's interesting is seeing people literally say, wow, he's a real authentic person because he's literally taking the time to try to reply to 900 comments. You know, he's got a good heart. You know, he was doing this for a real reason. And I think that authenticity shines through so hardcore that we can't deny it. And it's craveable.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And just
yes, I know.
Money too at 4:15 at Eastern time, but you hit it like ending it on the bam. Yes, that's been the common thread. I hope everyone has heard here that's been joining in. Thank you so much, Judi. Thank you again, Christine, for staying on. Natalie, poor Natalie, her internet's been crashing. She said she hasn't been able to join, but you guys everybody's hit on the common thread, like being real, showing up, being you, that is your brand, and also how your audience is responding to that brand and telling that story too is going to be key and pivotal moving forward. So please, both of you, drop your links in the comments so people can connect with you as well if they want to learn more about you, because both of you guys crush it online. I hope to have you back on Magnet Marketers 2021. But thanks for being part of it.
Thanks, Judi. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys. Freaking love this. This is my favorite day. Well, let's just keep doing this every day. Hey, Tony. Good to see you.
Tony loves ads.
Yay. This has been my favorite, like all my favorite people coming on here talking about just being craveable in 2021. Both of you are part of Social Media Week Lima 2019. We were talking about what's to come in 2020 being craveable. And then bam, 2020 hit and it's like, we're going to accelerate that crap faster than ever before. Ready or not, here we go. So I'm sure both of you have seen just shifts, Tony, with what you're doing with ads, Kate, what you're doing with all the things digital in your show. But first, maybe do a quick introduction, starting ladies first with you, Kate, and then we'll dive into the question.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, Jessica. So good to see you. So good to see both of you. I am Kate Volman, and I have loved all things marketing for quite some time. So I had a marketing company. Now I actually run a coaching company. So just kind of all over the space, but always creating some interesting things. So like you mentioned, I have like everyone else in the world, I have a podcast and I do lots of videos, and always interested in helping people create better content to reach their audience and grow their business.
Yeah, and you're a freaking rock star at it. I was just sucked into you ever since meeting you. I think we met at Social Fresh the first time.
Yes, yeah.
I was like, we're gonna be best friends. Like, digital besties. And Tony, same way. So Tony, a quick intro to you.
Yeah, I'm Tony Christensen. People like to call me Tony Does Ads, or maybe it's just me that likes to call myself that. I don't know. But I am the advertising manager at Now Marketing Group, of course, with Jessika. And I am just a mad scientist when it comes to ads. It's pretty much my entire life and weekends and holidays. And I'm always just networking and learning and looking at the data. So I love my job.
I can validate that. Yeah. And Tony is also a mad scientist when it comes to any kind of statistic that you would ever want to know about marketing. So I know he's been keeping up with the trends. Actually, Tony, I think you were the first person to share with me the stat of e-commerce brands, and you know how in the first 8 weeks of the pandemic, there was more online transactions done than the 10 years before it, which I was just like, holy crap, when people think, oh man, things are shutting down, that means business is slowing up. And that's not the case. It could be if you weren't already kind of there ready to kind of take these floodgates in. And Kate, like what you're sharing and sharing your story so people know about you and connecting with you so they know to get in touch with you. And I feel like that's been key. And now it's even going to become more aggressive. So asking both of you this question, Kate, again, I'll start with you on just what it's going to look like for brands finishing out this year and moving forward. What should they focus on?
Oh gosh, it's so interesting because I feel like when we talk about trends, I feel like it's that we see, right? Like it's everyone kind of talks about, oh, now it's going to be video or now it's going to be TikTok or all of these different platforms. But kind of like what you were just saying, it always comes down to the connection. And Jessika, this is what you do, right? Like this is who you are. This is what you do. It's all about connection. It's all about really valuing the people that are coming into your community. So what I think is going to be interesting next year is that so many companies now are seeing that they're on Zoom a lot, right? So they're getting used to being on camera. They're getting used to kind of connecting with people this way. And so I think what will be interesting for some companies is the fact that they really see and understand now more than ever community and what that looks like online, how to create that online, how much easier it is to create that online right now by doing these digital courses or having these communities where you can, pay a certain amount per month and you have access to people. I mean, that's really what people want too, is they want that access to some of these experts and being able to do from instead of a one-to-one, now a one-to-many so easily. And I think what's been fun for us is, we use Zoom all the time, and I love video, but now being able to say, hey, can we jump on a Zoom call instead of just a call? It's so much easier now because everyone's doing it. And I definitely think the digital courses, that online space, that world is going to be something that companies are really looking into, because not only is it a great way to connect with your audience, but it's also an additional revenue stream and something that can really grow not only that community and that online revenue for people that may not be able to afford you, but now you have more leads that will generate those bigger ticket items that you might be trying to sell down the line as well. So I think we're going to see a lot of community, a lot more organizations realizing, hey, I don't need to have 1 million followers. I don't even need to have 100,000 followers. I could have a nice little couple thousand followers, or not even that, to have and to grow my business. So yeah, it reminds me of that whole Kevin Kelly, 1,000 true fans, going back to that whole mentality of 1,000 true fans. You only need a certain number of people to really make an impact in your business.
And Tony knows this. We had all the team members kind of read some of that insight. But I feel like you hit the keyword community. Brands focusing on building that community and nurturing it because they're not able to do it in person, maybe right now, or go to trade events, or go to conferences, or even the local, small businesses that are used to going to chamber events, or, pop-up little small events, even those kinds of things of how can I either get involved in, whether it be a Facebook group that I'm joining and participating actively in, or facilitating and bringing people to me, or I'm hosting on my website or a LinkedIn group or whatever that looks like, but drill in and focus on how can I still maintain and build and grow that community that's also going to keep me connected, related to my audience. But then also, could it be a revenue stream? Is there something that we're here that we can offer more value that can help us generate more business in a way that's smarter, more efficient in giving access? And 100 true fans, 1,000 true fans. That was amazing. Also, Pat Flynn book, Super Fans, read it for the first time, or listened to it the first time this year. But yeah, I shared it on with the team because I'm like, yes, oh my God, I knew I loved him, but this is so spot on. And Tony, I know you preach this too with our clients, even as it relates to now when some of them that have been like, oh crap, our doors are closed. We need to tell everybody about what our shifts have been, and we need to keep our sales coming in. So we're putting out ads. But if they're starting from ground zero, right, and not having that insight on who their community is, it's been harder to kind of adjust. What have you seen in the ad world, as well as
Yeah, I was going to say, Kate pretty much nailed it on the head there with just the whole talk of community. I think there's been so many businesses, especially the local businesses now, that had to shut down, had to not now have their customers in their stores, and they might not have been on social as much as they should have been. And I think 2020 in a lot of ways made people realize we should probably have an online presence if we haven't yet, if we haven't focused on it yet. So you have a lot of that happening now, where there's a lot of people, I think we've grown quite a bit, having people reach out, wanting to do more ads, more social, organic content as well. But then the other side of it too is businesses are wanting to, and people are kind of expecting businesses to say, how are you reacting to this? How are you changing? What are your business hours like now? How am I going to buy products from you now safely and all that kind of stuff? Now it's changing even more. But there's just been this huge shift with business owners on one side, but then the same side of the consumer side of how now our business is going to listen to me. How are they going to react to me online, because I'm not going into a store as much now. And you see that with ads too, where now there was not as many in-store sales as there's not the crazy Black Friday scenes that you're used to seeing, because stores are now taking all that online and more people are running ads online. So the competition is just kind of skyrocketed in a lot of ways, especially this year, with spending kind of shifting on to the interwebs now.
Yeah, it was like the election year too, so spending was like skyrocketing, right? Yeah. So if you didn't already have that community there, I mean, you had to invest now in order to even, play in the game, let alone, get some scores or whatever. I don't know. Mike has all the sports analogies. I think I'm saying it right. I don't know. But anyway, I
mean, Tony, it was a crazy year in ads though, wasn't it? I mean, we had there was Facebook boycott at one point in time, and then there was
it was a stress-free year for me.
Blackout of ad period with political ads and all these kinds of things going on. So what are you anticipating, or what should people be be aware of as they look at 2021, particularly with ads?
Yeah, that is a great question. There's been huge shift. There's been a big structural changes behind the scenes in the back end of Facebook too. And that's had, I've talked to so many Facebook employees and reps and other advertisers, and it's been riddled with bugs this year, like randomly rejecting accounts and catalog items and all that kind of stuff too. They're getting better. There's talks of them acquiring, I think, a customer service company that I'm thinking hopefully might be able to help them out with advertising and kind of the resources there. I'm starting to see them respond a lot more to advertisers. It's really cool. We're connecting. A lot of the media buyers are connecting on Twitter with Facebook employees. So we're being able to talk with their team and get things kind of escalated really quickly now, which is really nice. So they're starting to react more. You're still going to see just an incredible amount of competition. And that's just how it's going to be kind of moving forward, I think, for indefinite future. So it's going to get expensive. We have Reels coming out, which I don't know if that's an advertising option yet, but there's new things. Yeah, there's new things like Reels, so they try to implement these new, features that now it'll be more ad space. So there's some room, but it's closing up. So it's just going to be more competitive going forward. So it's going to be, I would say it's going to be harder for the small business to know what to do properly with Facebook ads. On the other side of that, though, Facebook is getting really good. I've seen it more recently too. Just their algorithms are getting incredibly good. They were getting good this year in general, but just targeting and the timing and everything they're doing now, it's improving to a crazy extent, which is good to see. But it's a rocky future, I would say.
But you hit on something, Tony, where you said it's going to become more competitive and just changing, but also something Kate hit on just using our own client example. Okay. So, I won't say the client name, but they had a Black Friday sale that they wanted to get going, and then Cyber Monday, and they had a smaller ad budget. This ad budget last year though, so it was $200, right? And the ad budget last year had performed crazy ridiculous. The first couple of days of our promotion though, we were like, it's not doing anything. I know 200 is a lot for you right now, like with putting that toward the ad budget or whatever, but we may want to hold off and do something with what everyone else isn't, maybe, and do a promo later so you're not competing. But we stayed the course, and they ended up having this freaking ridiculous ROI on the ad campaigns because it was done with someone that knew what they were doing, Tony, right? And stayed in and monitoring it and watching it. And they already knew their community, like what Kate was talking about with, building this community. They already had like that community built to where we were able to get at least specific on the remarketing end, right? And show off offers to our community that was already there, and then stay the course with just fine tuning it with having a specialist there to make sure that things were going off without a hitch. And this made a drastic difference in their ROI during this time. Anyone else, they would have either let it ride and just said it was bad, pulled out, whatever, but not tweaked and known what to do to get that positive ROI like Tony did with, we didn't even end up spending the whole $200, did we? Like,
no, yeah. No, yeah. And it was a great return, but yeah, I remember I reached out to Jessika and the client and I was just like, I don't know if this is going to spend, because I talked to other advertisers that were spending a lot more than us this specific example, and they were having their spend struggle because the competition was so high. So some people's ad spend wasn't happening. It did ended up spending. It spended later in the day though. So I'm guessing Facebook just knew that's when their shoppers shop. So yeah, it was a little stressful, but it ended up running, and it was great to see kind of the results come in. Go ahead.
No, I want to share one thing, and it's kind of a plug for you guys because I think for every small business, for every business owner in general, if you don't have a huge budget and you're looking at content, pay the agency to run the ads, to do the retargeting, to do the right copy and everything that you need. That it's mind-boggling when you really get into ads and like what really works and why things don't work. And when a lot of companies try to do it themselves, it doesn't work because they're not doing it right, not because the ad wouldn't have worked. It's all copy, landing page, all that stuff. And then for consistency, and then for their content. So spend the money on the ads, not on the content creation. Content creation, I say, go all in with your content and just keep putting it out, and just find your thing, whether that's TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, video, podcast, and just consistency wins. So pick the organic content, consistency wins, ads, go to Jessika and Tony.
I've learned so much from your videos, and you hit on the last point I was going to ask you, because I learned so much from your videos, Kate, because you talk about that and like finding what's comfortable to you or getting comfortable with what's comfortable for your clients and settling into that and being consistent. And that's what's going to build community, like not giving up, right? Like being consistent and showing up and delivering it in a way that your audience wants to receive it. And you also get comfortable or already comfortable in delivering it. So, I mean, you're phenomenal at this too. So thank you so much for just being here. In 15 minutes goes way too fast, but I want to both of you guys with any last tip or where people can learn more about you, and then we'll sign off.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I hope this was helpful. You can find me on, actually would love to pimp out my podcast.
Yes.
The podcast, it's called Create for No Reason. So it's all about creating for no reason. Just like do it, try it, get it out there. Creativity wins all the time, and you just have to play around with stuff. So please check that out. And also my YouTube channel, you can go to Kate Volman and find all of the videos that Jessika was talking about over there.
She's a boss at it. You guys will not regret it. I promise. So thank you so much for joining in. And Tony, any last finishing thoughts on?
Yeah, I was gonna end with a tip, and she just said create with no reason, and that reminds me of the tip, so it's perfect. Yeah, I was just gonna say, and one of the things that I talked with Jessika a lot before I joined Now is what I really loved about what Now Marketing Group does is they focus on the organic side and they create a lot of content. And if you have that organic strategy that's consistent and you're trying new things constantly, you're going to be able to find those things that start to grab attention. And that's really easy now to turn into an ad, and you can save money. So many people have mentioned Ocean Spray like this whole hour, I think. And I think that's a great example, because you saw Ocean Spray, it kind of blew up. It went viral. It was an organic post a guy did, but then actually TikTok ended up using that and running it as a commercial. That's what basically you can do on a smaller scale. Maybe you'll get there one time with a video, who knows? But you can do sort of the same thing. So I always just say, focus on showing up consistently and then reading that data and see what's worked, what people are responding to, and turn that into your ads going forward.
Yeah, so many great tips. And I know Tony has more on our website. I'll plug the link in here. But that's how we test. We test because our clients have like $200 ad budget sometimes, which is okay. If that's what you got and that's what you want to start with, build the ROI and grow from there. But we test with organic content first. We make sure that it's going to work and then put the ad behind it. It'll help you know that, if it's something's going to work or not, potentially based upon just the engagement that you're getting. So definitely great tip there, Tony. And thank you so much for being here and all that you do for the team. And Mike, oh my goodness, last show of the year. I know, so quick. But Mike, any last finishing thoughts to kind of round it out, as we say?
Well, hopefully those who have been with us for the duration or popped in and out, I mean, they have takeaways. I mean, you guys have been great. It's been good to have everyone here. And I think that, it's time to get out there and create, put some things into action. 2021 is around the corner. It's waiting and there are opportunities. So we got to go for it.
Absolutely. Echo all of what's been said today. Also, just a reminder, we do have, if you're ready to create for no reason and do it intentional to build those relationships, we do have a free masterclass with some of the people that you actually seen on here today at learnrelationshipmarketing.com. Free masterclass with all the tips for you to create and build, maintain, and grow those relationships throughout 2021 and beyond. But thanks so much for joining in with us today and this year.
Yes,
so we'll see you back next year for Magnet Marketers 2021. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day and night.
See ya.
See ya.